As H2K on blue side elect to take it off the board, of course. Wonder top lane carries, it's his calling card.
Yeah, exactly. You see the graphic here with Wonder. I really want to highlight his Gnar is fantastic. H2K have experienced that one last year. But then also, when he gets Camille or Jarvan, those are two champions where he can really start fights as well. And something that Splyce can utilize very effectively. But for now, he had to see the Camille go. I think Galio ban is smart as well, because Senkux plays a pretty mean Galio, and we saw what they can do, you know, with that champion against G2.
It's not all Senkux plays, though. I mean, we talk about Wonder having a lot of picks. That guy has got a champion Ocean, and we've seen all sorts of crazy stuff from the Aurelian Soul even coming out. Maybe we'll get to see it later on in the series,
want to see
it's a
Aurelian
while
Soul.
away.
I'm so sad we don't get more Aurelian Soul here in Europe. Jarvan being removed, so far we got to look at Tristana. We look at Xayah Rakan as the ones always being highlighted. Cho'Gath should not be as contested anymore. I think teams have figured out that on stage is not really working out for them. He should drop down in priority for a lot of teams. Yeah. So I'm really looking at the Tristana for Splyce here to just ban that away, unless they have some tricky counter picks ready.
Well, it might be. There's the Tristana as you expected. And on your Cho'Gath point, it's not a patch change either, right? We're still on the same patch we had on the playoffs, patch 7.16. So not a huge amount of changes on 7.17 anyways, but for H2K, for Splyce, you know, they've been preparing on this one for a while.
Exactly, and then you start figuring out, like, okay, what are certain counters to the meta picks? Are some of the current meta picks only working in scrims and not on stage? And I think Cho'Gath was one of those scrim picks that was super successful, but then never really translated it to the stage where the Gnar, you know, was much more successful when he was picked against Cho'Gath. And I think teams just realized that maybe he's not that insane, and you have to pick him every time. And we actually get Sejuani first pick. This should be a Gragas then for Trashy if he just wants to match the jungle pool. Rakan is also open. It's a massive pick for Mickey, and I think Splyce are very happy with this start to the pick and ban phase, because they're not really scared of the Sejuani first pick.
No, it screams comfort for H2K. This is what Jankos was piling so much to mixed success during the playoffs. We talked about how they did falter in the playoff run. And I don't know how much you can chalk it up to that. You do want to be able to get up to that ultimate ability on Sejuani to be really effective. But once again, for Splyce, they can take what they're comfortable at, what they're good at. Not only do they have a playmaking support in Rakan, they've got Trashy's Gragas.
One of the reasons, though, this first pick Sejuani comes in, you know, we talked about the comfort. The other one is that Sejuani, it's been very successful when picked against Gragas specifically, because in a 2v2 skirmish with a melee champion, the Sejuani wins out due to, again, how good she is at getting a stun up, stun this target, and then have quite a lot of burst with it. Gragas struggles to kind of match that, so especially if you want to play her on top side, then the Sejuani is extremely good. Odo Amne, when he's on a strong laning champion, like, let's say, a Renekton, can actually get really far ahead and look really good. So if you give him Renekton with a Sejuani, that's a good 2v2 combo. But the Gnar that we mentioned earlier is still available. H2K did not log it in because they went Alistar, Cassiopeia. That means there is a Gnar pick now for Wonder.
But I wonder if this means that H2K are doubling down on Febivin. I mean, Cassiopeia is a pick that he had some of his more successful games on across the European LCS and across the world. It's been a really powerful choice, but is it worth giving up that Gnar?
I mean, that's the question, you know, depending on what Odo Amne can play against. The Jace is always one of the standards. Kennen is another pick that you can take against the Gnar, but only a few top laners in Europe actually play it. Looking at H2K's side, like when you lock in the Cassiopeia, you got to start removing mid laners, and that's what they're doing. I think they should ban Syndra as well, and then you kind of try and force Senkux, you know, over on things like a Corki or Lucian, and those matchups are fine for the Cassiopeia to take.
Find out what ends up being the case. Splyce taking their time here, but there's the Kennen ban away, so they really want to give Wonder an advantage.
Yeah.
Kind of speaks to the strategy that we know they like to employ. Play around Wonder. If they can build a composition around him that he can carry on, champion like Gnar, it's capable.
Exactly, and that's why I like the Gnar pick in that, you know, last rotation on first on the red side, just because again you can remove the counters. We get the Syndra ban as well, so far pretty predictable bans with the double mid lane and the double top lane. And I want to see what Senkux wants to play in the mid lane. There is not really a good situation here to play Corki or Lucian, so you might have to find something different.
Well, he plays a lot of different stuff too. Remember, if he can last a little long, he has a really, really good champion pool to go a little deeper, and that is a whole nother kettle of fish to fry. It's a Vel'Koz.
All right, Senkux
Just when you think you figured this guy out, man.
Finding a new pick to take against the Cassiopeia. He did not care about the Orianna Syndra bans from H2K. Febiven now needs to play against the Vel'Koz in the mid lane. Tough against the long range of the Vel'Koz. Let's see, talk more about that actually in-game, because I want to see what Nuclear wants to play. He's been a man we have to look at. Not the strongest laning phase here in playoffs. Lost lane to Sven and Reckless, obviously big AD carry names, but Copy and Mickey are a very strong 2v2 lane as well. And if they can win that bottom side for Splyce, it's a huge win for the team then.
Wonder how much it has to do with Che going off to try and make a few plays, and Nuclear being a little more isolated. However, they stuck him on this utility pick right now. I'm a little bit more interested in that top lane. This is no Odoamne special. Of course, a lot of European top laners love themselves the Rumble, but he likes to take it to just about anything.
Exactly. Now also Copy's pick in the end. Ashe is available if he just wants to match the strong laning phase. Seems to be going towards at least hovering all the champs. I think actually Ashe is better here than Sivir. I don't feel like there's too many things you gotta speed up with this composition. The Gragas in itself and the Rakan already have enough mobility. And he's also stepping away from it. Instead it comes to Jhin.
All right, trying to match a little bit of range with range, but not in the same way with the Ashe. Instead, be able to fire, open up some of those curtain calls. This is a very heavy artillery composition when you look at it.
Really long range carries from Splyce. A lot of poke, a lot of long range CC like slows or snares landing onto H2K. And H2K are going to rely on Che and Jankos to start the fights, but that should be enough engage. Like there is enough reliable engage on the side of H2K to always try and get onto Copy or onto Senkux. The thing about Rumble comps though is it can be a little bit difficult to execute because Rumble will lose the side lane in the mid to late game. So you always got to coordinate like grouping around objectives and then force a fight there with Rumble ulti and then the Alistar and the Sejuani. But if you can do that, it can be super successful. And I really want to see Odoamne and H2K pull that off because we know if they can't find the engages, the very long range poke from Splyce should be annoying for them to deal with.
Well, that is definitely a number of champions that's very annoying to deal with just from personal experience. I'll tell you what, Deficio. H2K might find that one out the hard way, but we'll see where Jankos can make his presence known early on. If they can coordinate up top to try and get Odoamne snowballing ahead on that Rumble, they might just be able to do it. They've got a lot of tools, a lot of damage, but they had best watch their backs and watch their fronts with all that long-range artillery that the Splyce boys are packing. We'll find out who takes game number one as we are getting ready to rock and roll onto Summoner's Rift. It is the regional qualifier. It is the last chance for Worlds. It's a long ladder to climb, but it all starts right now.
All right, I really want to look at Senkux on the Vel'Koz here. It is a pick, obviously, we have seen a few times around the world, especially in North America.
But this is the first time we're seeing it in Europe in the summer, so let's see what Senkux has up his sleeve.
So we know who he played it multiple times in playoffs. Hui also used to play Aurelion Sol, which
he
Senkux
is kind of
also
the
picked up.
of North America,
so we know that Senkux is looking at Hui from CLG when he's deciding what to play next. It is a fine matchup against Cassiopeia, especially once you hit level 6, because what will happen is that Cassiopeia will often sit on just a tier at that point, and then you get your full combo as a Vel'Koz, and you have extremely long range and high amount of burst, and you can actually just try and gank and almost one-shot this Cassiopeia in the lane, and then force it, to play super defensive. Once she gets Abyssal Mask, a bit more, defensive items, it gets a little bit harder for Vel'Koz to do it, but he can definitely burst it down at level 6.
So what's the game plan here for H2K, though? I mean, do they need Jankos to get there early on? Are they going to try to send Che up for one of his crazy roams?
Yeah, I actually think Jankos doesn't have easy lanes to gank in this game here. Bottom lane, it's very hard to shut down a Rakan lane early on due to Rakan's fantastic CC and his mobility. And mid lane as well, there's Cleanse, and that is like one of the counters to Sejuani specifically from Senkux. So top lane might be where Jankos can look early on, but it's against a ranged champion in Nar, so it might actually just be a farm game early on for Jankos. Hit level 6 and then try and make a play. Unless he can pull off some crazy shenanigans early. He's getting a good leash here from his bottom lane, but that is very standard in the current meta.
Naturally, trying to get him ahead early on. Of course, Trashy might have a little bit of an easier time trying to find those ganks pre-level 6 since he's not quite as reliant on his own ultimate. Try and get those plays, but of course dashes on both sides means they can get in and out of fights a little bit quicker if they need to. Picking things off on the bottom side. Nuclear Chase starting to try and play a little bit aggressive here.
Yeah, should be a pretty slow bottom lane, where it's hard for both teams to kind of take the big advantage. Obviously, you can all in on each respective AD carries. They can't really jump away easily. but I'm not expecting huge shifts around. Nuclear, though, is, of course, an AD carry we said in Champs League. He's been struggling in the laning phase, and in this game as well. He needs to be respected level 2.
Yeah, so you can already see him just kind of sitting behind, getting body blocked by Che. Of course, when you have an Alistar, not exactly trying to win the lane super hard. Want to be able to get into those fights a little bit better.
Yeah, so top lane is where Odamne can win the lane. Rumble should win early against the Gnar. It's only later on in the game he starts getting outscaled. So Odamne, if he has jungle pressure around him, which you can see in your minimaps, Jankos is top lane, or towards the top side, then Odamne can just play super aggressive. He doesn't care about Gragas in the early game. He knows Jankos will be around.
Yeah, Jankos is already inside of his own jungle. Gets the Blast Cone Express over, finds himself a couple of Krugs. He might be eyeballing that top. We'll check in on just a minute as that's happening.
We have to remember that Rumble's attacks are melee attacks when he is trying to sit there and actually proc the Sejuani stun as well with Jankos if they can't get onto Wonder. Trying to be as annoying as possible in the start. Want to take a bit more damage. Gotta be careful he doesn't drop too low. There's the full HP jungler just around the corner.
Yeah, Wonder. He may not know this, of course. There's a lot of vision for the H2K side up in that top, but it looks like Jankos isn't interested in taking this right now. And we should really turn our attention, though, to the Splyce guys right now. They are a team that we've noted having been together with their roster for such a long time. And when you talk about pulling off some crazy comps, it's because it's this level of trust, right? Together forever, you know? Like, you want to make it last forever. Friendship never ends.
There you go. You prepared that one. You practiced that one. I love it. No, I love it. I love it.
I mean,
Together forever.
It's impressive. This long streak to have the same roster.
It is, and that's super cool. Like with Splyce, how after they came in as a full Danish lineup and made that one change, picking up Mickey, it kind of clicked for the team. They made Worlds, and they realized this was a good roster where they worked well together. And the fact they have stayed together and kind of decided to say, you know what? We need to figure out what kind of issues we have. How can we fix them? How can we, become a better team? And they kind of peaked for 2017 in that game against G2, the quarterfinal where they got all the way to 5 games and almost won the last game as well. We need to see if they can continue that performance. Otherwise, we have to say it's been a bit of a meh 2017 where they haven't actually been able to become a true top team in Europe yet.
Yeah, still trying to prove that they can be one of the better teams, but right now it's 2v2 on the bottom side. However, it's easy enough for Mickey X to battle dance out of danger. And to your point, I think it's kind of disappointing for both teams to not make Worlds. H2K were a top 4 team at last year's World Championships. Splyce may not have done nearly that well, but the fact that they made it in their first year of the LCS, you'd want to be able to repeat that at the very least.
Exactly. You want to go into the spring split then and, remain a top team. You're going to get a gang up here.
Insta-flash away. Saw that one coming. Trashy a little bit slower on the draw as he tried to dash forward and get the play. But that burns a key summoner spell up top lane.
Yeah, Odamne here was stuck really far up in the lane after Jankos already left the top side long time ago. Jankos is down clearing his own Raptor, so Trashy forced a very easy flash up in that top lane. But as you said, Pyra, the fact that both teams went to Worlds, the fact that both teams, aspired to become the best team in Europe, and then here in 2017, they've not been able to do it. Disappointing player performances, that's rough, and that's also why they're meeting each other in the first round of the Gauntlet, and not sitting as the last boss or anything, which is Fnatic in this case, because they haven't been able to get enough championship points pulled together. And it means 3 BO5s in a row. Win this one, play Unicorn to Love tomorrow, then you play Fnatic on Sunday, and if you win all 3 of them, you go to Worlds, and then you really deserve it as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the ultimate test, right? And we remember hearing from Crowley a little bit about how they almost rather do that than go on the championship points because it kind of proves beyond a shadow of the doubt that you are that best team or that third best team.
That's fair.
Still, that's not an easy feat, man. You got to be really on top of your game.
Let's look at the mid lane here. We mentioned the level 6 from Vel'Koz was kind of the big turning point. Senkux is sitting with level 6 now, but up until this point, he's been struggling a bit in the lane. Febiven with a rather large CS lead already.
It's contributing to this gold deficit, too, that Splyce have at the moment. However, if they catch Febiven, it might be different. Flash away. There's the life form Disintegration Ray. Febiven trying to slither.
So, look at that damage. We mentioned this. When Cassiopeia is only sitting on a tier and nothing else, she's so squishy, and there's so much damage from this Vel'Koz. Sadly for Senkux, they could not lock Febiven down for just a second longer to actually kill him. Trashy was around, couldn't fully commit, and Febiven did flash away, so they got a flash for it. Bot lane as well.
Trying to make some more plays. There's a couple flashes available on that side. However, Kabi finding it really hard with Che right in his face. It looks like 80 carries trading damage. The support's mostly unscathed.
Now I want to see Trashy return to the mid lane. Febby stopped these recalls, stayed. No flash right now. Senkux, of course, no ulti just yet, but still a lot of damage to offer. His ulti will be back. The flash will still be on cooldown by then from Pepeven's side, and that means Trashy should be able to find an easy gank.
Meanwhile, Jankos, he's finding the gank on the bottom side, trying to arc assault forward, and he lands onto Mickey X. That's going to be first blood. Now Kabi, isolated from the pack, has to walk away. And H2K, they get some gold back in their pockets. That's 1,000 in the lead, combined with the farm that they already have over the Splyce boys.
Okay, so Jankos getting something in the bottom lane here after a lot of trades between the 2v2 lanes. Trashy knows Jankos on bottom side will steal away blue buff, but that's the same. Gragas is red, that's why I thought it was a red buff. But
the health bar is red.
Yeah, I see. Yeah. There you go.
It's not an easy game to read, Deficio, I understand. That's why you're the analyst.
Where's the blue health bar? Sneak into mid, go into mid. Body slam, flash, kill Cassiopeia.
All right, he's got no flash, he's got heal. Got a little bit of a speed boost, but you can see Febin, he's really respecting playing to the safe side.
Oh, he's playing so defensive. He knows that Trashy stole away that blue buff, so he's staying to the bottom side. He even sees Mickey now.
There we go. Just like, yeah, oh, and he even ults for good measure. Wow. That's like when you see a rattlesnake, and it's just like, get away from me, I'm gonna shake the thing at you.
Oh, man.
Oh, boy.
Love it. Love from Pepeven here.
Yeah.
Actually, one problem he did have during playoffs was he did get ganked quite a bit and actually died to some pretty easy roams to spot. But this one here, fully predicted.
Absolutely. And the thing is, he was playing a much safer set of champions. I'll talk about that in a little bit later because the equalizer's coming down. His Trashy already flashed away. Jankos leading the charge. Wonder trying to push him back, but they land the stun. Jankos gets knocked under tower range. Wonder turning him back. A full Narbar building. Che's even in the mix, and looks like that's the end of it all for now.
All right, H2K making the first moves here, getting that first blood in the bottom lane. Then Febiven stays safe when there was a follow-up gank. And now Trashy had to use his flash. No longer as scary when it comes to the Gragas. And H2K getting some good leads around the map with just being one step ahead of Splyce. But now Senkux trying to respond here.
He's heading down to the bottom side. Splyce, you can see how much vision they've invested. Bottom,
run, Nuclear, run!
No one else is around to save the day, and they throw everything at Nuclear. Down he goes. Kabi takes the kill, and looks like Splyce are going to equalize on that.
Top lane Pyra.
Yeah, Jankos, he's trying to go forward. Wonder, he gets a hop, he flashes back. His Narbar is nowhere to be found. He was exhausted, and Jankos takes him down. Ottawamne tanking through the tower.
Ooh, good, nice cross maps here from both teams. In the mid lane as well, Febby will get a bit of a trade, but Senkux does manage to push him off here. Bottom lane though, Nuclear, just leave. Just leave, man. Your entire team is top lane. Even your support is top lane.
Yeah, and this is why we're seeing some of the problems that he's had. Still trying to hang tough and grab a little bit of farm under tower. It's hard to do when you got a 2v1 Baron down at you.
I like the response though from Jankos. Just go straight back to top lane, kill the Gnar under this tower here. You know the enemy's bottom side, but Nuclear, no reason to stay, just back away. He dies instantly, didn't even get to use one of his summoners because he knew he was already dead, but this is a good response here from Jankos.
Yeah, Wonder tried to get the flashy plays off, but unfortunately it just wasn't going to be enough. At the end of it all, you can see the top side focus for H2K starting to pay dividends. Of course, the bottom side for Splyce. Still good leads for H2K, and this seems to be falling more along the lines of when they win games, the game plan usually goes as expected.
Exactly. It fit Jankos very nicely this game. He could just farm. Like, he didn't need to gank anything level 3 or level 4. We mentioned this, like, just farm, get your level 6. And the fact that nothing really happened on the map that he had to respond to was perfect for him. And yeah, it allowed him to follow that game plan you mentioned, because he went bot lane, got a kill, he went top lane, got another kill, and off to a great start here. The superstar jungler who needs a great start for H2K.
First blood king and second as well. At least second for his own team. And now Wonder still playing very aggressive topside. He has a control ward to make sure he would spot any return of Jankos.
I'm just looking at cooldowns here. Senkux's ulti is almost ready, but so is the flash from Febiven. If they really want to utilize the burst of Senkux versus the Cassiopeia, then they have to do it now. Sadly for them, there's already some MR coming in from the Cassiopeia. Abyssal Mask will soon be completed. Jankos, though, he wants to kill bottom lane.
Oh no, there's chains on, and they just tunnel straight for the AD carry. Kabi trying to get away from it all, and it looks like even Trashy's going to tag his way in a pair of teleports. Wonder and Ottawamne coming in hot. And it looks like they opt not to complete those channels. 3v3 down bottom side.
Mickey the hero, though, just locking up Nuclear and Jankos, so there's no follow-up damage onto Kabi, and he could flash away after. Actually stayed on almost full HP after using the heal. So Splyce's bottom lane did use all the summoners. At least they stayed alive to defend the tower. Another good gank, though, from Jankos.
Yeah, that's what they were looking for right now. Of course, Febiven, despite the fact he's been playing very safe and respecting the damage that Senkux can dish out, still has that CS lead for himself of 17 minions in the differential. And, well, this level 6, this Vel'Koz pickup, not necessarily like a cheese thing, but just all that burst, the long-range damage, he's been able to avoid it for the most part. And is that enough for H2K?
I mean, it's definitely one of the lanes where they could have actually fallen behind, but they didn't. So yeah, that's a great thing for them. Obviously, even though there is the MR on Febiven now, there is true damage coming from Senkux, but still a large part of it will just be magic damage as well.
Yes, indeed. Still trying to play it out. All right, for the time being. H2K, though, still in the lead. As we mentioned, this is kind of according to the game plan that they like to do it. And when it works out, of course, you just wash, rinse, repeat. There's no summoners on the bottom side now. See if they get baited.
Let's see if they can actually get past Mickey. Last time, they were not allowed to do it.
He was down with the quickness, but now the quickness is down. So H2K, Che waiting in the brushes, goes a forward position. Captive audience gets stopped up by the Deadly Flourish as well. And even Mickey waiting in the wings here. You can see where Trashy is in the mid.
Exactly, he's around that mid lane here. They want to use this Vel'Koz so badly. Not been able to do. He's spotted by the ward behind. So Febiven knows he's just staying to the opposite side of the lane. He's like, yeah, you can keep wasting time around mid. My jungler is just going to go kill bot lane and top lane.
Yeah. Splyce. I mean, you could see what the game plan was for them, but it seemed like H2K really read this one out well. And that's encouraging to see, considering how much trouble they had following it when they were in the playoffs. Trashy, of course, spots Jankos, goes over for a little jungle-on-jungle action. Dashes and bashes and flashes indeed. Febiven taking a little bit of damage. The geometry nails him in the side of the head. Now Splyce looking to see if they want to go in for a fight. Kobbe waiting off to the side. So much long range that H2K are respecting.
I want to see here, on the side of Splyce, there's so much CC to keep someone in place for the Vel'Koz passive to deal that proper true damage, you know, just multiple hits coming in against the target to avoid a lot of that magic resistance, because you got like Gragas to keep in place. Of course, the Rakan with a charm and a knockup. Meganar can also do it. So if Splyce can time the CC in team fights to allow Senkux to fire a full duration of his ulti, like that can just shred through all of H2K. And it's one of those big wombo combos you always got to look for in a game. Even if Splyce is slightly behind, one really good team fight and bam, 3-4 kills for Vel'Koz and you're right back in the game.
Yeah, and they want to be able to execute that. It's very obvious when you try to get for the wombo combo, but is that the only thing they can do? I feel like there's so many ways for them to start sieging on towers. They can utilize this Gnar for the more traditional kind of team fights.
They can definitely try and siege, but one of the problems with sieging is if you're behind and the enemy team is running a lot of engage, you're actually grouping up and allowing them to start a fight on you most of the time. There's very long range ulti from Jankos. There's again even an ulti from Odamne to tag along to slow people down. And then you have Che with like flash engages. So H2K have so many ways of actually starting fights from long range. Even the Varus ulti counts here. Making it harder for Splyce to play a siege game. They will have to just play with Gnar winning side lane in the late game and have pressure that way. And then the 4-man group in mid needs to just respect the engage from H2K and wait for Gnar to push.
Not only that, Jankos, he has been on form with his ultimate so far, but they might have overstepped their bounds. 2v3, in comes Nuclear. Teleport on both sides. Jankos might fall before this fight even begins in earnest. Mickey, he's got the quickness. He only lands the charm onto Nuclear. In comes Odo. One and Jankos gets the final blow onto Mickey X, but a double Gnar into the wall. Jankos and Febiven bringing up the rear. Here comes Senkux. Let's see if he gets the disintegration. That's one. Not going to find two. Febiven rooted up here. It's a knock-up, but they have run smack dab out of damage. Kobbe and Trashy trying for more here. It's not going to be enough. Flashing forward is Che, looking for Trashy. The damage is still there for Senkux as he gets his cooldowns right back up. Splyce turn around the fight.
Che ran out of mana right there. He could not headbutt after, so Trashy was like, okay, sure, you can jump me. We can just turn around and kill you. You have no flash now. Splyce couldn't do anything in the start because Senkux was moving around, taking the long route around the jungle. But when he did join, a lot of damage came in, and in the end, while H2K actually looked to win the fight at first, the fact they re-engaged without enough mana and cooldowns meant that Splyce has picked up a lot of kills in return.
We've seen that so many times from H2K, though. They think they have the upper hand, things are looking well, and they miscalculate. They make a mistake, and that allows their opponents back in the game.
Yeah, so let's see this again here. Notice how, if you look at the minimap, Vel'Koz needs to run around the Grump up on the top side, so he's taking a long route to join the fight. Febiven can, you know, just quickly join the team, and while he's not dealing damage just yet, he's here now at least. We're still waiting for Senkux at this point with his full combo. A lot of damage coming in, bit of follow-up CC, and now disengage, walk away. You got, you know, 2 kills already. Chase mana bar, we gotta look at that, because he's gonna flash over, and he uses E as well, so he doesn't have the mana to do anything else, and just dies instantly. Trashy just turns around and bops him in the head.
That's about as easy as you like, and that gives 2 kills over to Senkux. Kabi has 2 of his own, and all of a sudden, that gold's 500 in the favor of Splyce. Nothing else taken on the map, of course, but the tower down bottom, and that was the first one that really put Splyce over the edge. Senkux picks up a blue buff of his own, and it seems like now the H2K plan is a little bit in danger.
It is. Also, in that replay, we saw 2 members from H2K, Oramna and Jankos, walk when they re-engage in that little choke point against the Vel'Koz. Like, Senkux just landed like the full combo again onto them after they tried to join the fight the second time around, and ended up giving him more kills. So the 2 carries on Splyce with 2 kills and 2 assists each. Everything on the side of H2K is right now on Jankos. He's a very fed Sejuani, but he's not a carry.
Yeah, tanky champion. That's not going to be so good unless you just want to sit there and absorb blows from your opponent all day. Seems like H2K, they're going to need to do a little bit more.
I do think it's smart, though, that he's actually spending all this gold on building an item that really benefits the team.
Right, the locket.
In the locket right there, because when you're sitting in all that Vel'Koz AoE, a big locket shield from a tank can be what actually saves the day for the rest of H2K. So I like that investment from him.
They're lacking a little bit of the damage, right? I mean, you got to compare some of the other items. It's the Blade of the Ruin King on Nuclear, and Kabi has got his Eye Edge and his Zeal. Like, it's already going to start to sting a little bit more. Of course, you play Varus a little bit more for this utility, that ultimate, but still, man, one of the reasons they couldn't find enough of the pickoffs in the fights is Febiven's their primary damage source.
Well, they're trying again, and this time they're moving Febiven down even earlier. They're forcing Splyce to just step away, which now means that Oramna needs to run, otherwise he's going to get killed under his tower.
Should be a trade of towers for the time being, and Odo smart enough to get out of dodge before everything starts in earnest, and we will have those trades.
It's actually been a very good start here in terms of like cross-mapping from both teams. Pretty fast shot calling, realizing, okay, they're going top, so we gotta go bot lane. It was only really Nuclear who overstayed early on, but both teams have known exactly what to do when they are trading. Bot lane, though, there's still a big wave for H2K, and Oramna here with the Rumble ulti killing the wave on top side, meaning Nuclear and Che can keep pushing.
It's one of those micro things you can do to allow your team to keep pushing a little farther, get a better advantage. H2K also have that Mountain Dragon that they traded for while they had advantage bot side. You can see Splyce are going to try to match this, but they just don't have nearly enough pressure. Instead, they look for mid. Okay, it looks like onto the Cassiopeia, the barrel. Oh, there's no getting out of that one. He flashes, he ults, but they turn right around. Don't even look at him. Although Jankos is coming in around the side. Wonder is locking up Odo Wamne. And Febiven, he stopped up, dodges out the Gnar. And it looks like Senkux comes up with 1 kill to start this off, but that's all he'll get.
Yeah, exactly. Bot lane tower just died here. Che and Nuclear killed it. Alistar is around the mid lane to try and protect again. Febiven, a lot of dodges around there. Both summoners used, and the fact he actually stayed alive is quite insane.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing how well Febiven's been able to play, not dying this game. Splyce will finally claim their prize in the mid lane. It is a lot of focus they put that way, but they gave up a bottom tier 2 turret for it.
It's been a game where H2K did not have to play around the mid lane. They were playing around bot side and top side, and Febiven just had to try and stay alive against all the pressure from Splyce. Let's see the play again. He gets locked up, he gets knocked back. You think he's gone already, but just a quick flash. And then because Jankos comes in, there's no follow-up really from the rest of Splyce, and obviously they're also busy killing Oramna instead of actually killing Febiven.
Yeah, he dodged so many skill shots. I mean, on a champion like Cassiopeia, he can do that, and then we saw him on Lucian. He was dashing forward to try and make the plays. You can clearly see Febiven's been learning from past mistakes.
Poor guy, level 2 Lucian.
I mean, no one expects a level 2 Lucian gank, do they?
Let's see around this game here, because we got 3 towers now for Splyce, 2 for H2K. So the map is really open. We're going to get these big open team fights where if, as we talked about in Champs, like if H2K can execute this, like engage with Varus or Sejuani or Alistar, combine that with the Rumble ulti, it's deadly against things like Jhin and Vel'Koz. They can't get out. Like, once they get locked up in that AoE, they're not leaving. And you can try and take them down before they can really turn around and use their ultis effectively.
Yeah, Splyce really relying on Mickey X to make a big quickness play, and he's been able to do it a couple of times in those choke points, but you can see H2K trying to bring this out a little more into the open, getting some vision, but Splyce is turning it back around on them.
Yeah, down in the bottom lane, we got Wonder just pushing on his own. Oramna's actually moving to top side, despite having TP. So this should be a lot of damage for Wonder in the bottom lane. And both teams, once again, are just kind of trading damage on turrets, left and right. And then we get that 4-man group fighting each other in the mid lane.
Yeah. But the fast reactions, I mean, that's what's enabled these trades you were talking about a little bit earlier. And, you know, that's the kind of thing that you see when you are at the cream of the crop, the best of the European teams. These guys are fighting for a spot at Worlds. They both made it last year. And obviously it'd be a disappointment to crash out in this phase of it, but
Right.
They're both clearly in the upper echelon of European League of Legends.
Yeah, and this is why, like, this first game here in the Gauntlet, it makes me super happy because I feel like every single year we've had a Gauntlet with, like, 1 or 2 strong teams and then 1 or 2 fairly weak teams who couldn't really realistically make Worlds. But this Gauntlet here, all 4 teams can make Worlds, like H2K, Splyce, Unicorns, Fnatic, all 4 strong teams. And the fact that this first game is really even, a lot of good trades, just kind of backs that up. And fight him in.
But there's Mickey X, there's the combo, and it looks like they have enough damage to nearly clean up Febivin. Down he goes, and Suncooks is on a rampage. Teleport was coming in, canceled, and Wonder, he just keeps on walking through. The curtain call is open. Jankos not able to dodge the last step. They turn their attention to Che here. Unbreakable Will is on, but they might have enough damage to keep him down. And that cow goes in one more time before getting turned into a side of beef, but Splyce aren't done. They're still hungry. They still want to find more. And Oda Wamne gets the Blast Cone Express over the wall. Trashy following through. Blue buffs in the fight as well. And they're still going. They already got their burger. They're looking for a side of bacon. Jankos trying to dash away. Bouncing grenade. Nuclear turns him back around.
H2K's call there was so aggressive. They had no flash on their mid laner against a Rakan and a Vel'Koz. The fact they started hitting that tower just allowed Splyce to find a really good engage here. Mickey's Rakan is fantastic, and we got to see that in this fight.
Absolutely incredible. As they turn around H2K's aggro, grab themselves a Baron at 23.5 minutes. Splyce firmly in the lead.
H2K needed just patience. Wait for your mid laner's flash. What is a Cassiopeia gonna do at the tower?
3-man charm right into the Lifeform Disintegration Ray, and even with the teleport completing for Oda Wamne, he couldn't even get in the fight because of the curtain call.
Exactly, and now you just have to try and run, but H2K, after Che's re-engage, actually seemed to kind of have a bit of a split opinion on what to do. Here, just keep running. Sacrifice the cow. Let him die. But as soon as he goes in, you can see how multiple members are actually turning and trying to continue the fight, despite already losing your mid laner. So here, Splyce punish H2K for pushing up to that tower when H2K needed to wait for the summoner spells before doing anything.
Looks like it just keeps on coming here. The cow gets popped back into the rest of Splyce. Trashy with the finishing blow. He might give his life for it, though. H2K finding some return damage. And Oda Wamne even coming in. They've lost 1 Baron buff already. Mickey X going in, going out immediately. Jankos going forward and finds the pick off. And now it's going to be Kabi all by his lonesome. Febivin grabs a shutdown on the opposite side, and just like that, we're back to square one.
Yeah, we got to see a replay of that fight here because we were just in the replay discussing it, and then suddenly we turn out and Splyce is dying. Left and right. Wonder was still sitting in the bottom lane, but great engage suddenly from H2K, and just when we think they've thrown it all away, Splyce actually lose almost every single member with Baron buff. Copy and Wonder are still alive for at least a few more minutes with the buff.
That's a little different from what we've seen of a vintage H2K, if you will. A lot of the times when the play backfires and they go in again and again, it keeps failing, and you can see that the team just starts making more reckless and rash decisions. But this time, it pays off. They knew exactly what they were doing, and they're managing to equalize on towers, but maybe they've gone over aggressive again, or have they? Wonder, is Narvar, it's gonna come up, and now they've got time to sandwich the rest of H2K. Down goes Nuclear, however, Wonder's already fallen as well. Curtain calls on, Jankos trying to hold the line. Trashy goes forward, in comes Mickey X for the follow-through. Vel'Koz trying to worm his way into this fight, but they've got Kabi up, and he's gonna get shut down by the snake. Febivin once again pumping out the damage, and Splyce count their losses.
Damn, this game, Pyra fights going left and right here. Both teams is finding openings against each other. It is still so even in gold.
It's the Gauntlet, man.
It is the Gauntlet here. Oh man, H2K lost that Baron. It looked so bad for them, but then turn it around. They're gonna get a Drake as well. Suncooks is here with all his abilities ready. Mickey can try and maybe engage with the ulti, but it's 4v3, man. One is up in a few more seconds.
The moment that Flame Spitter turned on, you realized he didn't want it. The Dragon was already down. That's 2 mountains to H2K, and here was the start of that fight.
Yeah, this is after, you know, the Baron has already been taken. So it's Jankos sitting down there in the red buff behind Splyce. So Che goes in, Jankos then sneaks his way around, and at the moment, it doesn't even look that good for H2K. Uramne is not even there. But everything is being spent on trying to kill the Alistar, and then it's a great stun and just CC chain the Gragas, and now they can actually chase because it's 4v4, but Splyce already low. We cut to the next replay, another big fight. Wonder almost dying before he gets his Mega Gnaw after his flank. And this time around, it's Uramne who can't join because he's sitting in the bottom lane, and it looks like now it's a Splyce win. But it's a 3v3 here, and when Mickey dives in, there's not enough follow-up damage just yet because Kabi's running, and then look at the ulti from Febivin. straight onto the Jhin. They can turn it around, kill the AD carry, and win the fight.
Yikes, that one's a little bit rough. So for Splyce, the lead falls out of their hands once more, and it's, well, still a gold advantage in their favor, but 9 to 10 kills doesn't mean too much difference. And of course, the Mountain Dragon is up and available, and you can see who had the biggest impact in those fights.
This was supposed to be a warm-up game. Like, it's game 1 of the Gauntlet. It's not supposed to be.
They're taking the gloves off to begin with, man.
This crazy already. 2 Mountain Drakes for H2K. One thing we didn't get to talk about before we saw these big fights here was how, again, for H2K and Splyce, the 4 versus 4 in the mid lane, those are like the 2 most important groups to look at. If H2K's 4-man group can find these engages we saw just before here, where they can actually get to copy a Senkux, they can win the 4v4 fight and get control of the entire map. Because once you control mid, it's really hard as a split pusher to actually go aggressive against that, because you're just going to get ganked and die. Let's see what happens now.
All right, Mickey, he finds one, but Shay's already out. Jankos, he managed to make his great escape. And
wait, no,
well, there's your answer right now. The 4v4, it didn't really matter too much. 4v3, if you will.
Exactly, like both teams running engaged. Rakan Gragas on one side, Sejuani, Varus, and Alistar on the other one. So it's all about who can pull the trigger first and who can get to the correct target first. Febiven had to use his flash in this one. What does that mean for next fight, Pyra?
Might be a little bit easier to kill him.
Exactly, so now Splyce, for the next fight, once Mickey is sitting there with his cooldowns again, should be able to find the Cassiopeia if Febiven ever plays aggressive. But right now, Mickey, no ulti.
Yeah, Wonder not going to teleport in. They had a few flank wards, H2K. Realized they could polish off that tower. That's their 5th of the game. It's helping them maintain this slim gold lead over Splyce, but the game is oh so very close, and it's definitely going to come down to one of those explosive fights.
Oh, for sure. We're gonna get a few more of those big fights.
Hopefully more than a few at this point. I mean, we're not even 30 minutes on the clock just yet.
Exactly, and with, of course, H2K pushing in, splicing in that tier 2 tower. Wonder just went back to base, spent all his gold. Uramne gets to push out his lane as well. And really, it's all about keeping the 4-man group even in the mid lane from Splyce's side, and let Wonder push against Uramne. Let Wonder walk first. Let him walk towards mid lane without using TP. Because then H2K's 4-man group, they gotta back away, because there's an R coming, and he's gonna be here first.
And they would have won that fight if Senkux had been in the picture a little earlier, I thought.
Sure. And then once the Gnar steps in towards the mid lane and H2K backs away, Splyce gets access to the river and the Baron. They can set up Baron vision. They can bait H2K into that Baron without knowing what's actually happening, and suddenly you get hit by a massive Vel'Koz combo, you're going to die. But it requires Splyce to actually let Wonder push first and let him leave. He's on his way now on the minimap, and they're fighting.
Jankos, but that's the tank right now. Look at how little damage he's actually taking. Wonder's around the side, but it looks like Trashy is going to be sacrificed for the good of the team. Shay flashing forward, and everybody wants to not take this one. There is the Glacial Prison. The equalizer's down. Mickey X is going to channel on the entire team. The curtain call is open, but it was curtains for the Splyce support.
They lost 2 members right there. Pyra, H2K pushing up towards the mid lane. Still gotta respect it's a full HP Gnar with Mega Gnar coming up.
Yeah, they're not gonna push for this one. There's 12 seconds on Baron. They have made too many mistakes around that pit in the past. H2K realized they have a man advantage. There's no smite up for Splyce.
Splyce without summoner spells on the mid laner. Low HP as well. Cassiopeia and double Mountain Drake on the side of H2K. They're going for the Wonder needs to be the big hero.
All right, that's the recipe to try and melt through the Baron. They're going to get the smite off. Wonder tries to get the Gnar, but he whiffs it. And now they're going to be able to cut through his health bar. Down he goes into mini. Febiven takes down Senkux. Wonder is burning away. And Odo flashing forward, and that's a Narbecue.
What a turnaround again in this game here. H2K found success when it comes to just killing Trashy in the start of the fight, with Cassiopeia and Varus just taking him down so fast. Splyce not able to do the same with the Jhin on their side, and this fed Sejuani from Jankos with all the fantastic supportive items have been so valuable for H2K as well.
Febiven's only died the one time, a lot of it due to his own ability to get out of danger, but Nuclear, despite a little bit of a rough start in the laning phase, he's been able to be effective in the damage department. Odo Wamne, they're all firing on cylinders at this point, so H2K, this is where you start to see this team stepping up.
Yeah, we just see H2K be able to kill the tank fast. Extremely fast, so the Gragas will die, and that means all of Splyce will have to run away. Because this is actually the play we talk about with Gnar moving to mid first. This should not be a fight H2K are looking to take, but then they realize they can actually just burn down Gragas so fast, and the carries on the side of Splyce couldn't really get in range to do anything but that Vel'Koz ulti. Copy barely got any hits off at first, and then once you kill the first tank, you can just kind of start running at the enemy and force them back. And obviously at the Baron, Nuclear playing it safe. Quick flash after. Funny enough, he actually got knocked up by the Baron itself.
Yeah, same time. And yeah, it was pretty much cleanup duty at this point. Kabi was able to ghost walk away. And that was about it. So for H2K, I mean, this is looking really good right now. We've seen this game go back and forth and ping pong so many times, Officio. But at what point does H2K have a put it away kind of lead?
I mean, we feel like now with, you know, the Baron buff, this advantage they have, we've seen the last few team fights how they can just try and kill Trashy first. They should be able to win the following fights as well. They have 4 full items on Nuclear. The Cassiopeia is getting pretty damn fed as well. And
he's got 10 stacks still on that Dark Seal. All right, Trashy, that looked a little rough for him, but now it's still the Siege with double Mountain Drake with the Baron buff. Kabi had to flash away. Wonder, he might want to ready up that TP to try and save his base going back, as it were, but with the Baron-empowered minions, Splyce are going to let H2K march in, or are they? Mickey actually gets a 2-man ultimate. They get a barrel to bop right back, but they're running out of damage. Senkux, that backline has been dove, and Jankos with the kill means that Splyce are running for the hills. Down goes inhibitor number 1, and at 33.5 minutes, this is looking like they're gonna close out. Curtain call, but Wonder trying for the flank. There's no Vel'Koz, there's no Gragas. There's no damage, it looks like. Mickey trying for the play, but he ends up giving his life in the end, and Kabi just trying to walk it out, nothing doing. And H2K shrug off the Gnar, just like they shrug off the rest of Splyce, and they will lock this one up, put a bow on game number 1, and forget about the playoffs, because this is the gauntlet, and H2K say, we want to go to Worlds. 1 game up.
Have to kill Kabi as well in the end, of course, before actually winning the entire game. That last team fight, Jankos, as soon as he saw the ulti from Senkux, throws the Sejuani ulti straight on the Vel'Koz, stops all the damage, and then suddenly Splyce can't actually kill any of the squishy targets in the back, because you gotta keep in mind, Jhin cannot properly actually reach the back line if there's a few tanks right in front of him. And he can't really kill the tanks too effectively either unless he gets a lot of time. So all the damage against the squishies was on Senkux, but he was locked down. Great CC from especially Jankos in this game here, and then suddenly this Vel'Koz can't find enough time to get the proper damage off.
Yeah, Jankos was really the hero of not just the early game, but of setting up those fights. It's like you called in the very beginning, it was going to be so crucial for him to get the engages. And you usually don't think about Fed tanks being like such a ridiculous damage threat or anything, and he wasn't, but he never died.
Never died.
You literally couldn't touch the guy. He was 6-0 with 10 assists.
Yeah, that was fantastic to watch Jankos on the Sejuani. First picked as well in this game here.
And for good reason.
Exactly, it was the champion he found the most success on during the playoffs, especially against Fnatic. First picks in this game here. Great performance, and it was a slow early game, which was in his favor. He just wanted to farm, get level 6, and then find a few kills. And it worked for him and H2K.
Yeah, well, maybe the Splyce boys can find a way to get things going a little bit earlier, but for now, H2K, they've kicked things off with a win. So let's see what our analysts have to say about game number 1.
Thank you very much, Pyra. Also joining us at the desk is Vitality's coach, Jacob Yamato Cannon Mevdi. Also back from Paris, welcome.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have you. As always, let's start by diving into this matchup, looking at picks and bans as the first game of the series. And the sentiment that I heard here was, okay, the Vel'Koz, which I was looking at as the weirdest thing, but you guys were saying, well, no, actually, Splyce as a whole, Yamato, really outdrafted H2K. So what made you say that?
You know, I went through like a roller coaster of thinking, no, I don't know what H2K is going to do now. And then they got the mountain and they got the teamfight composition going. I had very mixed feelings about Vel'Koz. I felt like, on paper, it seems very difficult for H2K as the game proceeds to commit onto a team that is very long range with the Jhin, with the Vel'Koz, and of course the cleanse on the Vel'Koz, so they can keep their distance and not fight into the Cassiopeia. But that wasn't the case.
No, it was a roller coaster.
Yeah, we ended up seeing the Vel'Koz without the blockers in front of him. Yeah. Maybe not quite so secure when we see Jankos on form with the Sejuani hitting ult after ult on Senkux as soon as the damage comes out. I think the other part of this draft that we were discussing a little bit, the Xayah ban is actually very smart, because what it ended up doing is forcing Splyce on a Jhin who can't deal with the tanks later on into the game, and that's where the Vel'Koz alone ended up not being able to deal with H2K.
I think on top of that, it's like thinking of H2K and whenever their bot lane had the most success, especially Nuclear, was when Ashe and Varus were meta, when he was put on the champion that just needs to press hard to be a part of those team fights and eventually, of course, be very effective in that matter.
And they were very effective at the end of the game. At the beginning, though, it was all Splyce's time. Even though Jankos had a great early game, we saw a couple of team fights back-to-back where Splyce got the upper hand and they got a couple of kills on their carries, which is what you want. And in the early stages, Mikex's engages were always successful.
Yeah, a lot of the way through the game, Mickey was a key part of the engage. I want you to look at the minimap and look at how Senkux is attempting to path into the fight. He actually has to path the long way around because Feberman, as he's coming up here, would block him out. So that's why a lot of the damage from this point in the fight doesn't quite come from Splyce, but luckily Senkux gets into position. He's able to laser down some of H2K, and from there it's a little bit back and forth on H2K when it comes to their decision making here. Che ends up using his E as he goes over the wall, trying to get some more crowd control, but with no ult left, Alistair isn't exactly that tanky anymore.
And after that, no man overboard yet for H2K. Splyce has now just equalized it, albeit getting a couple of kills on their carries. And if we take a look at the next fight, that is where it is getting a bit dire for H2K because Splyce here end up getting a lot of kills.
I think the main thing that we can contrast between these two situations was when H2K just overreached. Those were the situations Mikkex could go in and, of course, set up the good engage where he punished his H2K pretty much.
And when we look at the draft, or we look at the way these team fights are going, they're going to win this fight. They're going to go to Baron, get that. You think, okay, Splyce, you've got it. You should be able to play this out.
Exactly. It looks like from this point that the Vel'Koz will have the damage with the Jhin at this point because you're early enough in the game that the Sejuani is not super tanky despite being ahead. The same, the Alistair only around the ultimate. But from here, Splyce end up blundering a team fight we're going to look at next. And that's what makes the game so tough. This fight looked so convincing that we were basically calling the game over.
Well, we do that often.
Yeah, we do that.
But we also think of the history and H2K playing from behind traditionally isn't the best scenario for them. So that's why I think it is we should praise them a lot for what happens in the next team fights when we take a look. Because H2K didn't give up. They waited out the team fights. They turned on this engagement Splyce and put it back in their favor.
I think looking at this, sure, H2K, of course, they are very aware of the situation. They need to just look and wait for the Spy engage. And I think the main problem with what Spy has been doing is they're in a position where they have this composition that needs to just wave clear and put Gnar on side and be patient with this because the enemy team will struggle very hard to engage. Cassiopeia won't reach anything, but the moment a Gragas engages, a Rakan engages, he's going to get locked down, going to get CC'd, and Cassiopeia is just going to run all the way through.
And this is just curious because yeah, they weren't all there, and then Wunder thinks he sees the fight.
Right, I think this whole minute of play is Wunder maybe being on a slightly different page to Splyce. In the first sequence, he was trying to get the bot tower, and I don't think he recognized how hard H2K were actually countering engaging. The second time, again, Senkuk's not quite there because he was dead, so he can't really help that. He's running to the fight as fast as he can, but Wunder sees what looks like a great engage for himself. Unfortunately, the rest of the damage isn't quite behind him, and it means that Splyce, over 2 or 3 minutes in the game, end up giving up so much of that lead right back to H2K.
I think really the main thing, I think the main contrast between the successful fights for Splyce was when Mikkex counter-engaged. When H2K were looking for the engage with the fights and with the Sejuani ultimates, it was very hard for the Cassiopeia to get in. And when the situation turned around and Mikkex and, of course, Trashy got a bit too confident, they wanted to be the ones forcing the engage, Cassiopeia could be so effective because when you don't one-shot the Cassiopeia, it's very hard to deal with because Jhin and Vel'Koz don't have sustained DPS. They need to look to one-shot people, they need to look to kite and make sure that Gnar is as effective as possible in the game.
But that wasn't the case, and H2K turned it around with some fantastic team fights. When we look ahead to the next game, Splyce has selected blue side. We saw a lot of top focus already in bans in terms of the first game. What are we looking at here for Splyce? Obviously, they may not want to do that Vel'Koz again because it was kind of a trump card that didn't work out, I guess.
I think that puts a little bit of pressure on H2K in the sense of they're not likely to get the Sejuani quite so easily in this draft, and Jankos had a fantastic game on it. I think a lot of our focus is on that AD carry banning now. Will Xayah make its way through the ban phase? Will H2K be put in a tough spot from that?
Yeah, I think that's a fair point because can we imagine H2K banning 3 ADs on red side? That means that they would have to give up eventually either a Jarvan or a Rakan. Are they fine with doing that? This time around we saw Rakan and they dealt with it fine with the Alistar. It might be the approach. Also, I think Sivir is a champion that could fit perfectly on nuclear, so maybe that would be the answer to the Xayah.
Oh, we'll get a lot of our answers after the break. H2K, they have a long road ahead of them, and it all starts tonight versus Splyce. We'll see if they can build on their lead when we return for Game 2.